There was an incident that happened over last weekend here in Queensland, and it sort of half proves my theory. There was a police officer that was accosted by, assaulted. I'll say it, assaulted by a group of youths. And I use this term loosely because the 14-year-old in front of this copper was like 3 inches taller than the copper. As far as I'm concerned, he was the size of a 20-year-old. He got pushed in the back, so what did the copper do? Turned around, he headbutted him, and now the copper's stood down for defending himself. Let's think about that. The juvenile in question was actually quizzed by the media, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I might have antagonised him a bit, but he's a police officer."
I did provoke it a bit, but in the end, he's a police officer and he's supposed to be able to be the bigger person in the situation.
You're joking, right? The police commissioner of Queensland took the side of the juvenile. I'm sorry, Commissioner, but if you turn around and agree with what these young lads did and take their side and stand down a police officer who was off duty and defending himself, you're part of the problem as to why these young louts are running around thinking they can get away with it because you're allowing them to.
And it's going to be another cop death by youths, by juveniles, before someone will do anything because the cops aren't allowed to raise a hand anymore, not even to protect themselves.
And this is only a couple of months after police were ambushed and slaughtered at Williambilla.
If I was that cop, I wouldn't have used my head. Then again, he was off duty, so he didn't have his taser with him, but that motherfucker would have been tased.
They allow this sort of shit to happen, and they wonder why the juveniles are running rampant, stealing cars, breaking into people's houses, committing assaults, because they're getting away with it. Because there's no punishment for the crime. Matter of fact, we're the ones that get punished for them to already punishing us.
I mean, we saw the same thing with that teacher that was pretty well bullied out of his classroom, but yet he's the one that stood down because he threw the punch. After he had a desk thrown at him, after he had a whole group. And like I say, take the school out of the equation, put it on the street, and would the outcome be the same? Would that man not be able to defend himself? And the same just happened to an unarmed, off-duty cop. They knew he was a cop. They started calling him every slur they could think of. And at the end of the day, he warned them, back off. They didn't. He was trying to get to his car. They continued to literally poke the bear. Then when the bear turns around and snaps, oh, you best put the bear down.
Yeah.
That's not fair. In fact, we should be pinning a medal on that man for doing something that this juvenile's parents should have done a long time ago. Put him in his place. Show some respect, because the day you need help and you call the cops, do you think they're going to come willingly to help you, or do you think they're going to take their sweet-ass time, get a few donuts on the way?
A police officer is under investigation after assaulting a teenager in Dalby while off duty.
Only 7 News can show you the confrontation with the police commissioner slamming her officer's actions.
A police officer who swore to keep and preserve the peace headbutts a 14-year-old boy. 7 News understands this late-night street confrontation outside Dalby McDonald's was sparked when someone from the group of teenagers yelled out to the off-duty officer in the black T-shirt, words to the effect, "You're nothing without the badge."
What badge have I got right now? Which one of you said that?
He's pushed by someone before a 14-year-old encourages the officer to take a swing.
Punch me, punch me. You want to walk away or not?
The officer, who appears to be intoxicated, threatens a headbutt.
3 seconds to walk away or I headbutt you. 3. Wait, let me keep 2.
And after being provoked some more, makes good on his threat.
You're not without the badge. Go on. Push me, push me. Go on. Push me. Stop.
I was in shock. I thought he had knocked my teeth back.
Tensions boil over as the group and off-duty officer are locked in the heated exchange before officers, these ones on duty, arrive and break it up, pulling their colleague aside.
I did provoke it a bit, but in the end, he's a police officer and he's supposed to be able to be the bigger person in the situations.
The Aboriginal youth says he believes he was the only one seriously physically assaulted because of his race.
I feel as though he has targeted me because of my colour. because of the colour of my skin.
The hide of the little prick, turn around and say, oh, I think he targeted me because of my colour of my skin.
He targeted you because you were the one in his face. The other guys had the camera.
And you stepped up thinking you were a big boy, right?
You want to dance with danger. Don't think your fucking age is going to stop anybody from doing anything. You're lucky that cop was there and he held that. He did a pretty respectable thing. If it was a fucking gang, you'd be dead.
Now, you've all just seen that, okay? There is no fucking way in the world that involved race. Matter of fact, yous were calling the cop around, calling him a pig dog.
So at the end of the day, who's the one that deserved the smack in the mouth? Because if you want to shape up to a man, you best be willing to take him on. And I don't care. That police officer was not in uniform. He was a civilian.
He was off
And
duty.
if the cops had been called to this situation and it was somebody else, they would have been told it was in self-defense. Kids, get your ass home. Yeah, if it was anybody else in society, they wouldn't have stopped there. They would have just pummeled him into the curb. The fact that they're once again getting away with it, and this poor copper who was defending himself gets stood down. So now him and his family have no job. Like, are you serious right now? This is what it's come to. We'll protect the criminals. Well, we're starting early, aren't we? 12-year-olds now.
That's a big fucking 14-year-old, isn't it? Throwing his weight around, thinking he's a big man. Well, another big man just headbutt your fucking teeth in.
Yeah, and as soon as they get done over, then they go straight to the whole, it was racial.
Nothing about that was racial. That was called
Nothing.
That was called street justice. That's called discipline.
That's called you picked a fight and you lost.
Yeah.
Suck it the fuck up. Harden up.
Damn right.
This is exactly why you should be at home in bed because you're a little boy. You're not a man. Go home.